Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the April meeting of the Carter Center Board of Councilors. I'm Jim Reed, and I have the distinct honor of being chair of this board. This is our first meeting for 2026, and this is my first meeting as chair, so please be gentle. I really am looking forward to supporting the amazing work that the Carter Center does, and also supporting you, this unique community of leaders who work so hard to support the center. Now I want to thank, we've got a lot of people online actually, so I wanted to thank the folks online, but I also want to especially thank those of you who are here in person. So thank you for attending. It's important that we all have this community in person as well. And an extra special thanks for those of you who brought guests. We have a lot of guests here today. Each of their names of the guests are on your welcome guests list. However, there's too many guests to welcome all at once. So what I'd like to do is, if you're a guest, could you please stand so we can welcome you as a group? All right. Thank you. We're very glad you're here. We have a really wonderful and exciting meeting today. We're going to hear from the Carter Center Chair, Jason Carter, as well as program staff who are going to give two very compelling presentations that offer a glimpse into the work that the Carter Center is doing on the ground to advance peace and health around the world. We have a special tribute as well for Dr. Fahey. We will highlight his extraordinary life and the work that he has done for the Carter Center and beyond. We have a very special group of guests here today. We have students and faculty from the Berry College. Our Berry College guys, are you here? Stand up. All right. Love to have you guys. Thank you. Love Berry College. And always, we want to especially thank the Lions Club, President Carter's special friends at the Lions Club. You guys should be right over there. Stand up, please. All right. Thank you for coming. Thank you for coming. We also have members of the Atlanta diplomatic community. So members of the diplomatic community, I'm going to call your name, and I'm going to ask you to stand. If you could stay standing, and the rest of us, if we can hold our applause until the end. I'd like to welcome Melanie Moltmann, Consul General of Germany. Jaap Veerman, Consul General of the Netherlands. Catherine Raymakers, Consul General Belgium, there she is. Frank Groom, Consul General of Ireland. Frank's, oh, there he is. Okay, good timing. We've got some first-time Consuls General. Joining us for the first time, we have Rolf Ott, Consul General of Switzerland. I see him, I can't see him, okay. Konstantinos Adamopoulos, Consul General Greece. Miriam Udeyozo, Consul General Nigeria. Marva Jacobs, Consul General Guyana. John Woodward, Honorary Consul General Slovakia. I didn't highlight Consul General Canada. Sorry, miss. Any other Consuls General were not on my list? Taiwan Special Office, thank you very much. Welcome, Consul General. Appreciate you all here. Thank you. So happy you're here. All right. Now, let's talk about some of the Carter Center staff. I'd like to welcome Dr. Meredith Evans, Director of the Jimmy Carter Presidential Library and Museum. Dr. Evans, please. Dr. Evans has invited members of the Board of Councilors and the guests to a complimentary tour of the museum that'll take place after the meeting today. Thank you very much, Dr. Evans. I encourage you all to take the tour. It's very, very interesting. It's great throughout, but if you haven't been there, Please go. If you've been there, but it's been a while, please go back. I would pay special attention to the section on the Camp David Accords, which actually shows how you can create lasting peace in the Middle East without dropping a single bomb. So that's really important. So it's a good lesson for all of us. Let's welcome the Carter Center leadership who have joined us today. We've got Matthew DeGalen, Vice President of Communications. Glad you're here. And of course, Nicole Cruz, Vice President of Development. Oh, there he is. Okay, Dr. Kashef Ijaz, Vice President of Health. And Barbara Smith, who has the coolest title I've ever heard, Vice President of Peace. That's a good one. Like that one day. Kenya Casey, Vice President of Overseas Operations. And of course, our Board of Trustees Chair, Jason Carter. Welcome, Jason. Okay, so we rushed you all in here, so after this meeting, there's time for more coffee and perhaps more food. If your conversations were cut short, or if you want to talk about the interesting things that you have learned, please go back for more coffee. It'll be open for more interesting conversations. Now let's jump onto our program. First, we're going to hear from Elena Aquino, Director of Conflict Resolution, and she will present on fostering peace at home and abroad, an overview of the Conflict Resolution Program. Then we will hear from Dr. Pallavi Kache, epidemiologist, with Nico Presley, Associate Director for the Trachoma Control Program, and they will discuss South Sudan Pediatric TT, Finding the Children, Finding Solutions. After these presentations, Dr. Frank Richards will honor Dr. Bill Fagey and his incredible life and legacy in public health. And finally, Jason Carter will make remarks and answer some questions. Now, on to Elena. Elena Aquino is the Director of the Conflict Resolution Program at the Carter Center. She has over 20 years of experience in international development and peace building. Her passion and commitment to being the service as a practitioner and an academic in the field of global peace building has been the through line throughout her career. She has experience in both international development and diplomacy. She has a portfolio of strategic and operational leadership and has had impact in both of those areas. Ms. Aquino is a BA from Yale University and an MA from the Johns Hopkins School of Advanced International Studies. Welcome, Elena, and you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Jim. It's Ilana Aquino. Thank you. I know that it's many vowels, and so no worries. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Jason. Good morning, executive leadership team, fellow panelists, Jim, Board of Councilors, and everyone who has joined us today in person and online. Today, I have the pleasure of speaking about fostering peace at home and abroad, particularly through the Conflict Resolution Program. So I'd like to tell you a little bit about how I got into this work. Under the shade of a mango tree, many good stories begin, under the shade of a mango tree, I witnessed two leaders, one representing farmers and one representing cattle herders, with their communities each behind them, armed with AK-47s on both sides. The time was 2004, and the place was Sudan. I was there as an intern, to my mom's great joy, learning formative lessons about conflict resolution. Later that year, Sudan would become two countries, South Sudan and Sudan, delicately held together by the internationally negotiated Comprehensive Peace Agreement. These types of local conflicts were among the many that needed to be resolved to keep the peace. That early career experience gave me a firsthand understanding of how important the work of conflict resolution is, and launched me on the journey that led me to standing here before you today. As President Carter said, we can choose to alleviate suffering. We can choose to work together for peace. We can make these changes, and we must. The Conflict Resolution Program, whose work was launched 42 years ago, is one expression of that legacy. Our team works to prevent and resolve violent conflict by engaging directly with disputing parties, supporting inclusive peace processes, and leveraging quiet diplomacy in places where traditional channels are limited or non-existent. Today, our work spans across the Middle East, Africa, and the United States, from supporting post-conflict transitions and political dialogue to providing trusted neutral facilitation in places where communication has broken down. That said, we should not fear conflict. Conflict isn't the enemy. It's a natural part of the ebb and flow of human life. President Carter, who I would argue is among the great Stoics, said this about his time in office. We told the truth, we obeyed the law, we kept the peace. This highlights the value of doing what is within your control with honesty, discipline, and steadiness. Regardless of external praise or outcomes, President Carter would remind us that the tough conversations are an opportunity to practice courage, clarity, and calm. When we focus only on what we can control, our intentions, our words, our behaviors, the fear fades and perseverance prevails. So how does the Conflict Resolution Program work towards this? Well, let me share a bit about our theory of change. We advance peace under constraint by activating 4 key levers. The first is strengthening locally led actors and networks in civil societies, much like this one, all around the world where we work, also with youth leaders, health actors, and community-based institutions. We also do this by filling political and institutional gaps. We do this through dialogue, coordinating key dialogue, data, analysis, and informal influence where formal systems have failed. By sustaining civic and political agency over time, that's another lever, based on depth over visibility, long-term partnerships, and adaptive engagement. And lastly, through social cohesion and trust building. CRP has a vast network of partners and collaborators that make our work possible and more impactful. Working across many types of collaborators, from governments to universities to other nonprofits, gives our thought leadership more visibility, highlights trust and access that our projects have cultivated, and targets all levels of the peace-building process for a more holistic approach. That element is key. In order to create a win-win situation where peace can actually be sustained, there has to be a holistic approach. And by partnering, that's how we work to achieve that. So through research exchanges with universities, to international forums for information sharing and learning, and innovative coordination with think tanks and other NGOs, CRP always invests time and energy into maintaining and seeking out worthwhile and mutually beneficial connections for our work. I really enjoy this slide because it encapsulates in 3 different ways the levels at which we're working. So we're always working across cross-cutting themes. Some of those include the new work that has been introduced around the triple nexus between climate, conflict, and health. That's through a program called Prepare CC. We also work very closely with local communities, those most proximate to conflict, and some ways we have done that is through youth citizen observer networks in Sudan, and also right here at home in North Carolina and Wisconsin with our democratic resilience networks. And we continue to prioritize inclusion and gender, and are working through a strategy across all of our programs on that. Innovation is really key, particularly peace tech and being at the leading edge of AI and peace building, AI for good. We also work through social and emotional learning, introducing that into our programs. In another life, I was a substitute teacher in elementary school, and we learned very much about social emotional learning and that people are whole people. And especially in conflict zones, the trauma that folks deal with, it's very important to be able to bring tools such as that. And as well as a proposed mechanism for eminent persons. One of our goals, and we're very grateful to our VP of Peace for having this vision, is how we continue the legacy of President Carter, where he could pick up a phone call and call a leader. Well, we still have connections like that, and how can we put those together and keep those for posterity? So that's something that we think about a lot. And of course, we collaborate deeply. So with our health partners, particularly through the mental health and caregiving program, as well as the guinea worm eradication program, with our other peace partners in democracy, human rights, and rule of law. All of that is very important for how we move forward holistically. So now I want to give you a few examples of some of the great stories in our work. So in Syria, our Syria team has been working very closely with an organization called SHIELD, which is a Lebanese organization. They together have developed an augmented reality app that children are able to use. It has a cartoon character called Sukar. Children are able to use this to learn how to stay safe from hidden bombs, hidden unexploded bombs. We're very proud of that work. In Mali, our peace health work has worked alongside the guinea worm program to provide, and as well as the mental health and caregiving program, to provide psychosocial support and also understanding for folks about how to seek better health outcomes, particularly around eradicating guinea worm, and has actually had access into rural areas and areas under conflict that are very difficult to reach. And finally, in our US domestic program, one great success story is our Emerging Leaders for Community Change program. This really focuses on youth with a faith-based proclivity, and youth here in Georgia, with a cohort which is actually just completing, and we're hoping to begin a new cohort, where we've worked with youth to learn how to lead on disagreeing agreeably and conversations in their communities, being a leader out front, that those conversations be rich, as is needed in any healthy democracy, but also don't lead to political or identity-based violence. And I'll end with a note that we recently received from one of our cohort participants in this program, ELK. She says, "Thank you so much for your hard work and leadership in making the ELK program happen. Thank you also for the financial support which made the Multi-Faith Youth Summit possible. This program has been so impactful and meaningful to me. I hardly have words." She has many good words. "It has been a space of such rich learning, community building, and dreaming of brighter futures to build together. I'm grateful to each of you for your energy, insight, and innovation." And I wanted to leave us in this moment on that note. Young people are still thinking about dreaming and what it means to dream in unity together, something very good for our country and our world. And we should all be taking up that mantle. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Alana. That's tremendous work. And it's great to see the blueprint that you are following and how it goes throughout the organizations. Our next presenters include Nicholas Nico Presley. and Dr. Pallavi Kashe. Nico is an associate director with the Trachoma Control Program, where he supports country programs and ministries of health in South Sudan and Niger to achieve the elimination of trachoma as a public health problem through technical, financial, and programmatic oversight. Previously, he served as the TCP research coordinator and was responsible for the management and conduct of the program's operational research portfolio. Before joining the Carter Center, Mr. Presley supported the Panamanian Ministry of Health in the design, implementation, and supervision of malaria case management interventions, and as a senior associate for the Clinton Health Access Initiative, and is a returned Peace Corps volunteer, RPCV Panama 2014 through 2017. Mr. Presley holds a Master of Science degree in the control of infectious diseases from the London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine, where he studied as a Rotary International Global Grant Scholar. Also presenting is Dr. Pallavi Kashe. Dr. Pallavi Kashe is an epidemiologist and research scientist with the Trachoma Control Program, where she works with in-country colleagues to conduct population-level trachoma impact surveys and mixed methods operational research. Dr. Kashe is a disease ecologist and infectious disease epidemiologist with prior experience in waterborne, vector-borne, and zoonotic diseases. Prior to joining the Carter Center, she was a disease detective with the CDC's Epidemic Intelligence Service, working in the waterborne disease prevention branch. She holds a Master of Public Health and a PhD in ecology and evolutionary biology from Columbia University. While pursuing her doctorate, Dr. Kashe conducted field-based research in South America as a Fulbright scholar. She also holds a bachelor's degree in public health from the University of Texas at Austin with a concentration in social and behavioral sciences. I think we'll start with a presentation first from Nico and then followed by Dr. Kashe. So welcome, Nico. You have the floor.
Perfect. Yeah, thank you, Jim, and good morning, everyone. As mentioned, my name is Nico Presley. I'm an Associate Director with the Trachoma Control Program here at the Carter Center, and I'm joined by my colleague, Dr. Pallavi Kashe, the epidemiologist on our team. So today we're going to be discussing the unexpected and concerning phenomenon of pediatric trachomatis trichiasis, or TT, in South Sudan. So trachoma is the leading infectious cause of blindness worldwide, with an estimated 94 million people at risk of developing the disease across 32 endemic countries. It is a progressive disease whereby a lifetime of repeated infections can lead to the eyelashes folding inwards and over many years scraping the cornea, which in turn can lead to blindness. We'll talk a little bit more about that later in the slides. It is a disease of poverty. It affects people who have a lack of access to sanitation, water, and health services. And importantly, it is a disease that disproportionately affects women. Women are 1.8 times more likely to develop the blinding stage of trachoma. The Carter Center's Trachoma Control Program has been supporting South Sudan since 2001, and in 2023, we resumed support to the Jonglei region, where activities had been suspended during the civil war. In the small inset map here, you can see Jonglei State and where it sits within South Sudan. And Jonglei is extremely endemic for trachoma. Here in the larger map, you can see the different counties of Jonglei State, each color coordinated based upon the prevalence of TF, the active stage, or active presentation of trachoma. In addition, as you can see in deep red in that county in the center, that's Yoror County, that county has the highest endemicity of trachoma in the world, and it is estimated over 50% of children ages 1 to 9 are presenting with the signs of active trachoma. Now, to understand why trachoma is so endemic in Jonglei, it is important to remember that it is fundamentally a disease of poverty. It affects the poorest communities in the world, and its transmission is driven by a lack of water, sanitation, and access to health services. And when we think about this in particular and how it relates to Jonglei State, we see there are unique characteristics that both drive transmission but also limit our abilities in the past to perform interventions. The first of which is remoteness and flooding. Jonglei is heavily impacted by the rainy season and corresponding floods. This results in a short implementation window when we can come in and perform interventions to only about 3 to 5 months a year. In addition, these rains and floodings can have disastrous impacts on the road system and water and sanitation services. In addition, Jonglei is an area marked with considerable insecurity. It was a flashpoint during the Civil War. And since then, although the situation has improved, it is still characterized by sometimes sporadic, but often prolonged moments of insecurity. Even when the security situation, does improve and we can get in, we still have to tackle the reality that there is considerable population displacement as individuals are fleeing the violence. And both of these factors further exacerbate a extremely stressed health system that is poorly funded, understaffed, and sparse. Now, to combat trachoma, the Carter Center supports the SAFE strategy, which targets key stages of disease transmission key stages of disease progression to interrupt transmission and avoid irreversible blindness. In the first stage, repeated infections of an individual can lead to inflammation of the conjunctiva over multiple years and continued repeated infections. This can lead to scarring. Here at this stage, our primary focus is on interrupting transmission, and as such, the toolkit of interventions we have include mass drug administration through with azithromycin, facial cleanliness, and environmental improvement strategies. Now compare this to kind of the second stage of disease progression, wherein the scarring will lead to the eyelashes being everted, a condition known as trichomatosis or TT. Now, when TT occurs, these eyelashes that are folded downwards, with every blink, painfully scrape the eye. And over many years, this can lead to corneal opacity and irreversible blindness. Now, at this stage, we are most focused on correcting TT and avoiding preventable blindness. And as such, our main and really only intervention is that of surgical correction. In response to the known burden of TT across Jonglei State, the South Sudan Ministry of Health, in collaboration with the Carter Center, has recently scaled up surgical services in this area. Here in this photo, you can see patients at a surgical camp in Jonglei who had recently received TT corrective surgery. And what I would like us to observe or to notice here is the majority of these patients are older. They're older adults, and that makes sense. What we discussed in the previous slide, it is a disease that takes many years to progress to TT and later to the blinding stage. However, this also highlights why we became so concerned when during some of these camps, we received numerous reports of a phenomenon known as pediatric TT, so TT in children. And so pediatric TT, as we'll define it, TT in children under the age of 15, is considered extremely rare. Often when there's an incident case that comes out, a differential diagnosis is proposed and for what could be driving it. But if these children do truly have TT, at the numbers we are seeing, it implies two very important aspects, two very important things. The first being that the force of infection in Jonglei is so high that it is accelerating disease progression by decades. And second, critically, if these children do not receive surgery, they will go irreversibly blind. And so as the Ministry of Health and the Carter Center work to unpack this problem, this phenomenon of pediatric TT, we see it falling into kind of two categories. The first being around detection diagnosis. As mentioned, it's extremely rare. We are looking at a rare disease presenting in an unlikely population. So we do have to ask, are these true cases of TT? Could this be misdiagnosis? Could this be sporadic cases? Or are we really seeing a considerable burden of TT? Furthermore, we have to think about what is the magnitude and the severity of this disease as it is progressing. In addition, how are we going to provide services to these kids? The Carter Center does not support surgery to children in outreach settings under the age of 12 due to the need for a pediatric anesthesiologist and risk of complications. However, based on the challenges in Jonglei, we know there's not a strong health system there, and almost all of the cases of TT we detect are in outreach settings. So clearly referral mechanism needs to be in place to ensure these children receive sight-saving surgery. I'm going to now pass to my colleague, Dr. Pallavi Kashe, who will speak more about what we are doing to understand this problem and to ensure these children receive the services they need.
All right. Thank you, Nico. I'd like to shift now to talk about how the Trachoma Control Program is working with our colleagues in South Sudan to better understand and respond to pediatric TT. I'll start by describing a research study that we've launched at surgical camps to characterize the cases that we're seeing. Specifically, what are the clinical signs and symptoms that the patients have? I'll then describe a pediatric surgical pilot that we initiated in November 2025 that enabled us to transport the children from their affected communities to the capital of Juba, to the Bullock Eye Center for urgent care. So to better understand this phenomenon, we launched a descriptive study focusing on children 1 to 14 years old with suspected TT at the surgical camps. The goals of the study were to understand the frequency of pediatric TT, or how many children out of those who were seen at the camp had suspected TT, document their clinical signs and symptoms, as well as their demographic characteristics. We initiated this study in Pibor County, which is in the southeast corner of Jonglei State, and collected data during 2 surgical camps, one in July 2025 and the other in February 2026, each of which lasted about 2 weeks long. As part of the study, we developed a clinical questionnaire and collected photos of the eye using standard trachoma guidelines for taking ocular photographs. So during the 2 surgical camps, we estimated that 240 children between the ages of 1 and 14 were seen. And of these, 32 children were confirmed to have TT by a trained and certified TT surgeon. And the children ranged in age from 3 years old to 14 years old. And as Nico emphasized, these are ages that are highly atypical for TT. When we looked at the cases further, we found that not only did the children have TT, but they are presenting with an extremely severe presentation. Almost all the children had what is known as major TT, with 5 or more lashes touching the eye. And 21 out of the 32 children, or 66%, had corneal opacity, that late stage presentation that Nico had mentioned that poses a risk for irreversible blindness. Further, in 4 of the 32 cases, the trichiasis was so bad that the certified surgeons were unable to flip the eyes without the children being in severe discomfort. I'll go back. If we look at the photos shown here, we see an 11-year-old girl and a 12-year-old boy on the top row that both have more than 10 lashes touching their eyes. In the bottom row, we have a 12-year-old boy with more than 10 lashes touching the eye and signs of corneal opacity. And this is a very clear sign here indicating that the child is at risk for blindness. And finally, we see a 7-year-old child with more than 10 lashes touching the eye, highlighting just how early and aggressive the disease presentation is among these children. So taken together, these findings point to patterns of a presentation of TT that is not well described in South Sudan or the global trachoma community, emphasizing our need to better understand and document these cases. Additionally, given this information and the clinical information we collected, the most immediate concern was the fact that without timely intervention, this group of children faced very real risk of preventable blindness. So after identifying the first group of children in July, in November 2025, we chartered a flight and transported 9 children and their caregivers from Pibor to the capital of Juba. Many of these families had not left their home communities, and so the children were very brave in boarding this flight, undergoing surgery, and spending 12 days in post-operative care at the Bullock Eye Center. Seeing these children through surgery and recovery reinforced the impact of timely intervention. Through the course of their recovery period, their pain was reduced and their risk of blindness was significantly diminished. After the second surgical camp that we conducted in February 2026, we built on what we learned, we mobilized faster, and reduced the time from identification to surgery from 4 months down to just 1 month. This initiative would not have been possible without the leadership of the Ministry of Health, the incredible work of the Trachoma Control Program in South Sudan, and at the same time, we know our work is just beginning. We suspect that many children across the state of Jonglei are living with the same urgent need for care. And this initiative represented a meaningful step forward and a clear call to action to ensure that no child is left to face preventable blindness. As I close, I want to thank the Carter Center's communication team, Ron Borden and Soya Ellison, for helping to capture this journey and reminding us what is possible when expertise, partnership, and resources are leveraged and pulled together to prevent neglected tropical diseases. So, thank you.
Amazing work. Thank you, Dr. Cachet, and thank you, Nico. and the communications group. Next, we will hear from Dr. Frank Richards as he honors Bill Fagey. A few words on Dr. Richards. Dr. Frank Richards Jr. completed Williams College, Cornell University Medical School, a residency in pediatrics at the University of Southern California, and a fellowship in infectious diseases at Emory and Grady Hospitals. He entered the CDC EIS program in 1982 and spent 23 years as a CDC medical epidemiologist, working in the Division of Parasitic Diseases and Malaria before joining the Carter Center. At the Carter Center, he was the initial director of the river blindness, lymphatic filariasis, and schistosomiasis programs. During his tenure at the Carter Center, he assisted the ministries of health in 11 countries to deliver more than 500 million cumulative treatments to prevent these 3 debilitating diseases. Dr. Richards also co-directed the center's malaria program that helped distribute over 18 million insecticide-treated bed nets in Nigeria and Ethiopia. In 2020, he decided to step down from director to become a senior advisor to these programs. And he chose to retire in August of 2024. Dr. Richards has authored or co-authored more than 230 publications. He is an adjunct associate professor at the Emory School of Medicine. And his most recent honor was the receipt of Merck's Mectizan Award in 2025. Dr. Richards is a great advocate for programs that seek to eliminate or eradicate infectious diseases and has worked on the guinea worm eradication, river blindness elimination, and lymphatic filariasis elimination. In his retirement, he serves on the World Health Organization advisory group that evaluates countries' official requests for certification of malaria elimination. Please welcome Dr. Richards to the podium. Thank you.
Thank you for that long introduction. I appreciate that. And good morning. I never imagined I would be back at on this stage in this podium, but it is an honor and a pleasure to be invited to offer a few personal reflections about Dr. William H. Fagey, Bill Fagey. Bill passed in January at the age of 89, and he was one of the great public health figures of our time. Bill's accomplishments are much too many to mention here in detail, but I will point to him as a Peace Corps volunteer, a medical missionary, a famous smallpox eradication warrior, pivotal advisor to the Gates Foundation, and author of books, and winner of the Presidential Medal of Freedom, awarded to him by Barack Obama. The Carter Center played a big role in Bill's career, as you will hear from a short film that follows my remarks. Bill served as our executive director from 1986 to 92, before I came to the center, and from 1992 to 1999, after I arrived on detail from CDC, when Bill continued as a fellow in health policy here, while simultaneously serving as president and CEO of the Task Force for Global Health, our sister organization. And in those years, I got to know Bill through strategy sessions, program reviews, budget meetings, and most especially as a member of the Mectizan Expert Committee from 1993 to 1995, which Bill chaired. The committee advised the pharmaceutical company Merck on its donation of a revolutionary oral medicine called Mectizan that could be given in mass treatment programs to eliminate river blindness. And this landmark 1987 donation was indeed the cornerstone of my career. Strategies based on Mectizan eliminated 95% of river blindness from the Americas, 4 countries now free, And I want to give a shout out to the Lions here today because they were very important in helping on that success in the Americas. And I worked with Bill and others on a proposal to use mectizan treatment to eliminate river blindness from Nigeria, a proposal that was a semi-finalist for the MacArthur Foundation's $100 million competition in 2017. We didn't get the money, but still there's been great progress in Nigeria despite that. Well, Bill joined the CDC's Epidemic Intelligence Service, the EIS, in 1962, and I came into the EIS 20 years later in 1982, when Bill was CDC's director. And I'll never forget how my class was mesmerized by his welcoming speech, his presence, he was 6'7", his humor, his humanism, his philosophy, and his passion for global health. I was never disappointed listening to his speeches and his remarks over 40-plus years of knowing him. And I was on a few panels with him at international meetings, and yes, it was a fearful task to follow Bill to the podium. Now, the movie that follows, Bill offers two key themes about President Carter. And while these are great themes, I feel obliged now to offer what I see as two Bill Foege legacies to the Carter Center. First, way back when in 1982, when Dr. Foege spoke to my EIS class, he offered a challenge that I embraced. Paraphrasing, Bill said, "The best decisions in public health are based on science, but the best outcomes in public health are based on management. In your careers, strive to be both good scientists and good program managers." And that, ladies and gentlemen, is what the health programs at the Carter Center are all about. They are both data-driven and action outcome oriented, science and program. Second, Bill left an enduring legacy of what I call the smallpox eradication touchstone, which showed that it is possible to get to zero disease through human endeavor. It's achievable and it should be repeated. He left the International Task Force for Disease Eradication here at the Carter Center, chaired first by Bill in 1989, and then by Don Hopkins, and then by Steve Blount, and now by Kashif Ijaz. That task force tracks global eradication initiatives and seeks to seize new eradication opportunities that arise from new science and new ways of thinking about application through programs. And the Board of Councilors benefit from an evolving vision of possibilities through these periodic updates that you receive here from our guinea worm eradication program, our river blindness elimination program, our lymphatic filariasis elimination program, and our malaria elimination program. And I hope one day our trachoma elimination program. This is uncommon work, and it's being done here, and it's special. It is what Bill left us, a center of excellence in the broad practice of disease eradication. You know, President Carter wished that he would outlive guinea worm, and he did not. And that demonstrates that eradication is more and more an intergenerational challenge. My hope, having dedicated myself to this peculiar practice of disease eradication, is that the Carter Center will continue on the special path that Bill and Don Hopkins and President Carter launched. It is not a path for the faint of heart. For future generations with courage to dedicate their professional careers daring to get to zero, well, they ought to find hope and opportunity at the Carter Center. And now, if we could watch the film with Bill giving some thoughts in his own words to us.
There are two things that have happened in the last few decades that have caught my attention. One is, at the beginning of the century, the Gates Foundation brought new life into global health with resources. But the other thing is what happened with global health and politics. And the poster child for this is President Jimmy Carter. He became interested in this when he was asking me whether I might want to be the executive director of the Carter Center. And I told him my reservations were, since a teenager, I've been interested in global health. And he said, would it make a difference if I also became interested in global health? And he did, and what a difference it made. President Carter would go directly to the head of state. And he convinced, for instance, President Babangida in Nigeria to become involved in guinea worm. President Carter got Sudan to have a ceasefire so that we could work on guinea worm, onchocerciasis, polio. He was able to work on Metazan and go country by country, even with the CEO of Merck. He was the one that convinced the SmithKline Beecham to give albendazole so that the world could start a lymphatic filariasis program. He's clearly been a mentor. I've been blessed with a lot of good mentors. He's always an enigma in a certain way because you know he's thinking beyond what you're thinking, but you don't know what it is. And this idea of not wasting time, of seeing how limited life really is, that you've got to use every minute, that's been important to me. But also to see his ability to always ask questions, to keep wanting to know more about something. He's never satisfied with the amount of information he has. What a great trait. I hope I'm asking questions right till the end.
Well, he was asking questions right up to the end and pushing back up to the end. And I would invite those who are able to come to their feet and let us spend a short period of silence in remembrance of Dr. William Fagin. Well, may grace be upon family and friends now in mourning, and may Bill rest in perfect peace. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Richards. Now, for remarks and questions, I'm pleased to introduce the chair of the Board of Trustees for the Carter Center, Jason Carter. Jason is the chair of this Board of Trustees, of course. He is also a partner at the law firm of Bondurant, Mixon, and Elmore. As the eldest grandson of the center's founders, Jason has been involved in the center's programs for 20 years. In fact, an important fact for our Berry College visitors, Jason got his start as an intern right here at the Carter Center's Peace Program. Jason combines a successful litigation practice with a strong commitment to public service. He served in the Georgia State Senate for 5 years. Before that, he followed his great-grandmother Lillian Carter's footsteps in joining the Peace Corps. There he served in South Africa, helping schools transition out of apartheid. Now, like many of us, Jason juggles a lot of professional and personal issues and responsibilities, but Jason takes it to another level. I don't know if you saw this, but it hit my TikTok feed. Recently, while on vacation, he took a quick break from the beach and stepped away to record a powerful video relating to the war in Iran. It resulted in a huge number of views and comments on social media as he raised a bipartisan message of peace and human rights in response to the president's threat to wipe out an entire civilization. Then he put his hat back on, went back out to the beach, and played the role of dad and husband for the rest of the vacation. So just another day in the life of Jason Carter. With that, please welcome Jason Carter.
I appreciate that, and in full disclosure, my internship at the Carter Center was 30 years ago, unfortunately, and not 20. So we've been doing this for a long time, and I'm honored that today is my son Thomas Carter's first meeting as a member of the Board of Councilors, and as we all welcome new members, we're excited for Thomas. Just to begin, and then we'll take questions, as many as you'd like, a couple things to begin with. Obviously, as you hear the resume of our staff that works in Atlanta, that works on these programs, they are preposterously well qualified. They are remarkable people at the top of their field doing incredible work. But the other thing that you see in these presentations, and I wish we could bring you there, is the people that we work with. The Carter Center's 3,500 employees, almost all of them, a few hundred are here in Atlanta. Almost all of them are in places at the end of the road working in the most difficult conditions that you can imagine, as you saw in the beautiful videos of both the conflict resolution programs in Sudan and the work that's being done in Jonglei State in South Sudan. And those partners, those other Carter Center partners, whether they are employees of the Carter Center or community health workers that work, for example, for the South Sudan Ministry of Health, we work alongside those partners in very real ways. And what happens when we do that work together? Yes, the Carter Center may have one of the world's great epidemiologists able to bring that resource to bear on a particular situation that is unique and unfortunately very disturbing in the world. But the people who are going to implement those surgeries, the people who are going to work with people, the people who are going to build that trust are the people who live in those communities. And at the end of this process, the Frank Richards' point, and he has done this as successfully as anyone in history, when we work together with partners and you bring to bear the science and you bring to bear the ability to manage, you are able to truly transform. What I think will happen, and you guys will have to tell me, but as we watch what it takes to get 9 children who have significant TT treated today, what we are working towards as the Carter Center, as we have in every other one of our health projects, is a way to do that in the places where they are so that we don't have to put everybody on a chartered flight, right? You have to prove and understand the problem first. The way you do that is to be on the ground. If we hadn't been on the ground alongside those partners who are the true folks on the ground in these areas, we wouldn't have seen necessarily that this is what was happening. But now that we've discovered it, we have the ability and the resources to pilot a project, to describe it in the ways that we can describe it because we have great scientists, and to then manage that project in a way that we can help build capacity for, we talk about, what's the term for if it's an outreach environment? Is that what you said? Yeah, so an outreach environment, what that means is that you've got somebody essentially traveling out into the beyond the end of the road to do this healthcare outreach, and how we can figure out how to do that now for children. We didn't know we had to until we've spent enough time looking in enough places. And so it is a truly remarkable effort, and it just highlights the fact that where we really are is beyond the end of the road. And what's remarkable about that is not only do we learn things to help people beyond the end of the road, but when you focus there, you end up with lessons that we can bring home. That conflict resolution discussion is one of the more remarkable examples of that. And I'll just say 2 things about that, and then we'll all take questions. Presumably you have more questions for the people who know things than you do for me. But the focus on what's happening on the ground in a place like Syria has allowed us to do 2 things. And Ilana mentioned it. She talked about AI and sort of advanced technology, peace tech, she called it. One of the first examples of peace tech that we employed is we developed a system for identifying through social media reports during the war on Syria where conflict was occurring, where bombs were being dropped with great specificity, the corner of such and such and such and such, this apartment complex. And so we generated with that, and with the help of some of our other experts here in Atlanta, we generated a mapping project that allowed us to be very, very specific in exactly where conflict was occurring in Syria, exactly where bombs were being dropped on all sides of this conflict. And that mapping allowed us, and everyone relied on it, from the humanitarian aid communities to the journalists around the world, were relying on our Syria mapping project. And what we've been able to turn that into is now a very highly targeted map that provides us the greatest and most efficient way to deal with the unexploded ordnance that's out there threatening people's lives today as we transition from conflict to at least stability. And so when we're talking about putting together a program for small children to understand how to avoid unexploded ordnance, which poses a significant threat in post-conflict environments, that does a couple things. Number one, unexploded ordnance is something that every single person on every side of this conflict wants to address. It's an issue around which people can come together and do things together. And we have the information, et cetera, that we can give to these communities to help this not only specific issue that needs to be addressed, but also something to work on together, which is so crucial. And as we think through that conflict resolution mechanism that Ilana talked about, she sort of hinted at it, but we are doing that in North Carolina. We're doing that in Wisconsin. We're doing that in a variety of other places to help reduce the polarization that we have at home. And my favorite thing that she said, she glossed over it, but she said, sometimes we choose depth over visibility. And what that means is that when it makes sense to put the Carter Center's name on it, we put the Carter Center's name on it. And when it makes sense to make a big deal out of something, we make a big deal out of something. But when the most important thing is depth, then over visibility, then it makes great sense, especially in the United States. The Carter Center is a nonpartisan organization. It does great things all across the board in very nonpartisan ways, and we're devoted to that. But sometimes it makes sense not to have our name on it because people associate our name with a political party sometimes. And our neutrality is so important, and the depth is so much more important than the visibility, that these democracy resilience networks in Michigan, Wisconsin, North Carolina, they don't have our name on it. They just have our spirit behind it and the information that we bring. So I love these presentations today. Thank you very, very much. I'll conclude with this about Bill Foege. And this is for Thomas Carter, too. He grew up in a weird family, Thomas did. But so did I. And so both of my grandparents on both sides of my family were friends with Bill Foege. And he was this towering figure, both metaphorically and in reality. And one of the things that he told me that I will always remember is it's a story about how to build trust. And he was walking into communities in the 1960s in what the Western world then called Biafra, before it became Nigeria after independence and sort of the decolonization period. But he was walking into communities. And in this one story that he told me, he was trying to come and say, I have ideas about how I can help make this community better. And people looked at him like, who do you think you are? And he got a trusted advisor to help him. And there was communication at the time with a complicated collection of drums. And the guy said, I can build you a crowd. They'll come and listen to what you have to say, and then they can decide for themselves. And he said, okay. So he waits. This complicated drumming mechanism goes out, and the next day, hundreds of people have flocked to this community to hear what he has to say. And he was like, oh my gosh, did you tell them that I was going to talk about public health and polio or whatever? And the guy said, no, I told them to come and see the tallest white man in the world. They showed up. Bill Foege took it from there and truly changed the world. So happy to answer questions. If there are any, we may have covered it. Please, and if you'll go to the microphones on either side, that would be great, so the people online can hear you, and the rest of the folks here.
Hi, my name is Miriam Hughes. First, I want to thank you on behalf of all the Berry students here. Being in this room has an insurmountable impact on us, especially coming from an institution that doesn't have robust public health programming. Sitting here, hearing this work is incredible. I do have a question, speaking to your point, Dr. Carter, about going beyond the end of the road. I'm very interested to hear more about the Carter Center's approach to health system strengthening alongside all of the disease prevention and eradication efforts that you undergo.
Sure, I'll talk for 1 minute about that, and then I'll turn it over to anyone on the panel who would like to address it. One of the ways that is just fundamental, as you see the kind of scientific rigor, as you see the kind of management rigor that the Carter Center brings to these situations, and again, doing this alongside and really through as part and parcel of the people on the ground in these communities, that training, that understanding of who and how to operate in these environments is just part of it. We also very, very intentionally do our best to work ourselves out of a job. And so we have, unlike many, many organizations, we will very much have a goal to say that we will turn this plan over to local actors so that the Carter Center can step back and move on to other projects. So we also spend real time alongside ministries of health and only essentially work in partnership with people on the ground. We don't go it alone. We only go with our local partners in real significant ways. Would any of you like to comment briefly on that? Frank, I mean, while we've got you, I mean, retired Frank, it's like, this is the best. Can I ask you some other questions?
Wow.
Yeah.
Thanks. So, great question. And I would answer health system strengthening questions in this way. And in my presentation and in the presentation film by Bill Fagey, sort of identified 4 groups. We talked about scientists, we talked about program managers, we talked about donors, and we talked about politicians. All 4 are important, but the big success is communities and being engaged in communities. And a lot of our programs are very much based on having village volunteers, village workers, people who are involved in wanting to improve their communities for themselves, their families, their neighbors, distributing medicines, distributing filters, all sorts of things which people can be empowered to do. And I think that empowerment element is a big part of what the Carter Center works on. And we look for ways to continue to reinforce and strengthen those activities that are done by volunteers and community people such that they can do more to help their communities. And I really believe that is part of the health system. That is part of the outreach that you mentioned. And it's still a big challenge, but it's a very, very important element. Thanks.
I'm excited that there's questions. We're going to be briefer in our answers because we have a time limit, and my great law partner is getting an award in Athens, Georgia, that I'm presenting, which means I have to be on the road, and Thomas Carter has to be at second period.
So for the next session, where do you go when you're so unsettled and disturbed by the statement of removing an entire civilization? And so I would like to hear in more depth your vivid depiction of unexploded ordnance in children just helps the reality of what it is to transition from the edge of conflict. And so I'm really interested in your layering of thoughts and what more you can tell us about the reaction and the many different aspects of stepping back from the edge of that level of destruction.
Thank you. We will take that into account. I will say 2 things. One of my grandfather's favorite quotes is from his Nobel Peace Prize acceptance, and he said, "War may sometimes be necessary, but however necessary, it is always evil. It is damage." And I will just say this, that when the president announced that he was going to destroy an entire civilization, I think he might not have realized which one was at risk.
Hi. Ron Krotoszynski. I interned here in '86, '87 and had the privilege of covering the opening of this center, and it's wonderful to be back. My question today, though, is this. I noticed the Department of State was among your partners. The current president, and I realize you're nonpartisan, I respect that, but USAID has been dismantled. Critical programs like the anti-HIV effort that George W. Bush and Presidents Obama and Biden had pioneered have essentially, as I understand it, been shut down or nullified. How are NGOs like the Carter Center navigating the current environment where the State Department and USAID, I think, are not on the field? And if I'm wrong about that, please correct me, but how has this complicated the mission of institutions like the Carter Center?
Well, it's the dramatic change for all of us. The Carter Center happens to be scheduled now for a 5-year strategic planning review, and so we're deep into that process now, and it comes at a great time because, as you mentioned, the moment that we are meeting as members of the international development community, whether it's for peace building or health building, are confronted with the new reality. Specifically with respect to the Carter Center, we had a small percentage of our budget that came from the USAID or from the State Department, and it was from both agencies at the time. We made a decision to just stop taking funding entirely from the United States government. So when those programs were suspended, some of those programs were, that is an allergy, not anything else. When those programs were suspended and then re-offered to us, we declined. And so we are at this point completely independent of U.S. government funding. That is not true for many, many, many of the others on the field, to use your term. And so what that has meant for entities like the Gates Foundation, for other philanthropic entities, for the World Health Organization, is that we are confronting a different reality. So there are organizations, bilateral other countries that have stepped in to some extent, but no one can replace the size and scale of the United States government in being able to make an impact, as evidenced by the programs that you're talking about on HIV and others. And so we are in a different environment. The world is confronting it in a significant way. It has had a dramatic impact on our implementing partners. We are lucky because of our financial resources and the remarkable stewardship that my grandparents gave to this organization has allowed us to step into the breach in certain ways. Kelly Callahan, who's here, and the folks that work on trachoma know, for example, that while we are implementing in a state in northern Ethiopia called Amhara, we were also able this year to just step in and manage projects in a few other places because our partners were so hindered by the cuts from funding in the United States. So we are confronting it. It has changed the landscape, and everyone is having to deal with it. We'll take a last question.
Good morning to everyone in the room. I'm Shay Malcolm, visiting as a guest from the Georgia Tech MBA program. First, thank you so much to the Carter Center and everyone for the invitation today. This is my first time learning about trachoma, especially in some of these heavily affected areas, and I'm fascinated by the work that the TCP team has been doing. So my question is, in cases where medical intervention has been given, specifically in terms of surgery, what does long-term care look like in these patients? Is there a risk of reinfection and recurrence for trachoma, and how does the TCP program track that and tackle it?
That is, I will say one thing about the TCP program, and then I'm going to let the experts talk. The reinfection rate in a place where 30% of the people have a particular infection is almost constant. And so you have to treat those populations in a population-wide way. So when they talked about mass drug administration, one of the things I wanted to flag is that mass drug administration is given population-wide. So in Amhara, it means that we give 12 million doses of Zithromax in a week. And we do it through this massive army of partners, all of whom are with the Amhara Ministry of Health, the Ethiopian Ministry of Health, community-based workers. And we couldn't do that in the United States. You couldn't give any sort of 12 million person public health campaign in the United States. And so that just demonstrates the type of management that is there from a long-term care and a post-surgical standpoint. Please take it away.
Okay, I'll just bring this closer. Thank you. Thank you for that question. And yes, this is a topic of discussion multiple times a week, multiple times a day sometimes amongst our team. And we So we have a few strategies that we are implementing, and the first is, as Jason mentioned, is the Mass Drug Administration. And so we have started already to implement Mass Drug Administration in the state of Jonglei. This is the first time since 2007 that communities have received azithromycin. So this was a huge step forward in ensuring that the force of infection, that the underlying transmission within the home communities is reduced. And so that is our main priority, is to mitigate the underlying transmission. We're also working to better understand the epidemiology. And so as you may have noticed, we have an underlying map of trachoma, but we're thinking about how do we get updated information that is not just based at the surgical camp level, but better understand what's happening within the affected communities. Pass it to Nico.
Perfect. Thank you, Pallavi. I guess I would add as well I believe the question was someone asking about at the individual patient level. After TT surgery, if we remember, there's kind of the two stages of the disease progression where we want to ensure that infections don't happen to this individual again, but really we also want to make sure that a phenomenon as post-trichomastocytosis PTT doesn't occur. Essentially, there is a rate that some surgeries may relapse. You might have undercorrections or other complications from the initial surgery. And because of that, one thing we do, and I think this goes as well to the question of health system strengthening, is we support the Ministry of Health to perform surgeon audits or supervision visits 3 to 6 months after the initial surgery, because we know in the trachoma community this is going to happen. It's a reality. But what we can do is understand, okay, well, was this an issue with the surgeon, the quality of the surgery itself, in which case we can look to holding refresher trainings, or is it another mitigating factor? So to what Pallavi had mentioned, at the community level, we also look at it at the individual level to try and bring a holistic solution and support elimination.
Thank you so much. And just for the record, we have demonstrated that it is possible to eliminate it as a public health problem. We've done it in Niger, we've done it in other places, and so we know it's possible. We know once we can get there. The problem is when you have the infection rates that we've got in some of these places, it's very difficult. I have to run out, and I apologize. I'm going to ask Jim to come up, and let me give one other apology. Paige Alexander would be here. She's at a family funeral today. And so she sends her best, she sends her regrets, and she will be here next time. So thank you all very, very much. And thank you so much, Jim. And thank you to all of you guys for doing this great, great work.
Thanks. Amazing. Thank you, Jason. Thank you, Jason. How fortunate are we to have a leader like this who with such passion, energy, able to articulate so well. Very good. Thank you, Jason. Appreciate it very much. Yeah, he does an amazing job. He has the fewest degrees on the stage, and still he's able to articulate the mission overall. Thank you. Look, we're just starting a new year. So we're going to share to the Board of Councilors every quarter the progress that the Carter Center is making. I think we have the meeting dates up here. Yes, here they are. You're going to receive an email with these. Sharing these dates as well, so you need not worry. But we look forward to seeing everyone here for each of those meetings. This has been an incredible meeting. Thank you very much to Dr. Richards, Dr. Cache, Nico, Alana. They and the rest of the Carter Center are dealing with some of the biggest problems on the planet. You've got the smartest people dealing with it. It is intergenerational. But they are achieving what I think is kind of the highest level of human achievement. So, you as members of the Board of Councilors kind of have the easy part. You get to show up and hear about all the wonderful things they are doing. But the Carter Center asks us to do 3 things. First and foremost, attend these meetings just like you have done, so you can stay informed and grow with the amazing community here. Second, and very importantly, tell your friends and networks about the great work that the Carter Center is doing to wage peace, fight disease, and build hope around the world. Now, that includes talking to your friends at cocktail parties and at dinners, but more importantly, especially today with social media, look for the Carter Center's posts on Facebook and LinkedIn. No Instagram? Are we not doing Instagram yet? Instagram, please, Instagram. Anybody else? Any others? I saw TikTok. Okay, all of them. And look for the hashtag Carter Center BOC and share that with your networks. Get it out there. Spread the word. Bring guests to these meetings too. Ursula Hamilton, where is she? Oh, in the back there. She will circulate an email with a link to a SharePoint page with select photos from today. So, early next week, those photos for the event will be made available for you to share. Look through them, find the one that has where you look the best, and share it with everybody else, please. Yes, Matthew. Yeah, please.
Jason has left, but I did want to share that not long ago, he published just this morning an opinion piece in the AJC, ran, and it's titled, speaking to some of the themes he mentioned, America Must Demonstrate Strength by Returning to Core Values and Ideals. So he expands on the video message about the war in Iran and all the rest. So look for that. We'll share it out on social media. You can share that with your friends. It's a really powerful piece that Jason wrote, and we're really proud that it ran today. So I wanted to let everyone know that. Thank you.
Thank you. Matthew DeGalen, everybody, Director of Communications, doing great work here. AJC opinion page, Jason Carter. Okay, that was the first two things. The third thing, consider ways that you and your friends can raise funds for the Carter Center to help them enable the kinds of programs you hear about today. They're doing the hardest work on the planet without government assistance. So many of you have asked about how you can help the Carter Center. The Carter Center staff are here to help you find impactful ways to get involved. You can host small events here. You can become an Ambassador Circle member. You may sponsor a Carter Center event. And there's countless other things you can do. So please, again, contact Ursula Hamilton. She's hiding in the back by the door over there. She and her team are here to get you plugged in. With that, we truly appreciate all that you do to support the Carter Center's mission, and we will see everybody here in June. Thank you all very, very much.